What up, y'all? MC Snax here. Welcome back to Hatchet Chat. This is episode 30. I hope you guys had a good Christmas. I know things are crazy out there, and that made a lot of people's holidays pretty difficult, but I still hope one way or the other you were able to make the most of it and have a decent holiday season. We're closing out the year on Hatchet Chat here, last episode of 2021, and to do so we have a amazing project, Jumpsteady, the Chaos Theory EP. This is a dope release, and it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And just like last episode doing Isham's Repentance, that gave us an opportunity to talk about Isham and his history with ICP, his influence on ICP. Doing this project will give us an opportunity to talk about Jumpsteady a little bit more, and who he is and how important he is to Psychopathic Records and the Juggalo world. So let's get into that. Who is Jumpsteady? Jumpsteady's real name is Rob Bruce. He's actually Violent J's biological brother. He's his older brother. And when you read Behind the Paint, Violent J's autobiography, you do get a sense of how close they were growing up, and they are close to this day. And Jumpsteady is a very interesting guy. He's lived a very interesting life. It's almost hard to know where to start when it comes to talking about him. I mean, he is a war veteran. He joined the Army at a young age. He was stationed in Fort Bragg and then eventually served in the Gulf War. And just to give you a sense of how close Violent J and Jumpsteady were, in Behind the Paint, Violent J talks about how when Jumpsteady left for the Army, that kind of made Violent J feel a little bit lost, and he started to spiral out of control a little bit, experience some more trouble with the law and stuff. So it really seemed like Jumpsteady was a grounding force for Violent J. And even from the Army, Violent J writes about how Jumpsteady was sending stuff over to Violent J and everything from overseas. And I mean, an example of how big he is in the ICP Psychopathic Records history, he is actually the reason that ICP got hooked up with their first manager, Alex Abbas, who was, a manager for, I think, like 15 plus years, and, was with ICP from the beginning through a lot of their success. And that's because of Jumpsteady. Jumpsteady was someone that, or Alex Abbas was somebody that Jumpsteady knew. So, he was there from the beginning, a part of Psychopathic Records. And when he came back from the Army, he kind of worked with Psychopathic Records, mostly behind the scenes, all the way up until present day. Before we get into the music side of things, we should talk about the other things and the other ways he's been involved with Psychopathic Records. Maybe most notably would be his involvement in the gathering of the Juggalos. He has been the main organizing force of the gathering of the Juggalos since the beginning, and I don't think that's an easy task each year. There were a couple of years in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where Jumpsteady took a step back from Psychopathic Records to pursue a career as a paramedic. That was like a dream of his he wanted to do, and he did do that for a few years around that time. So during that time, he did not organize the gathering, but most of the gatherings, he had a huge part in organizing. The games. Jumpsteady has been an avid gamer since his youth. Tabletop RPG type style games like Dungeons and Dragons, etc. He loves board games as well. And he kind of shared that love of gaming with the Juggalo world through Dark Carnival games. We have Morton's List, which isn't really a tabletop game. It's more of like it's like a real life quest generator. That's kind of hard to explain. There could be a Hatchet Chat on each of these games, and maybe someday there will be. But yeah, you got Morton's List. I think that was the first game that was officially released by them. You have Pendulum's Promise, which is a D20 system based tabletop RPG game. It didn't really have a physical release that you could buy, but the official handbook and character sheets were released on the ICP website, in I think around 2003, 2004. So I would consider that an official release by them. And there was Quest for Shangri-La, which is more of a traditional board game. There was, more recently, we got Into the Echo Side, which is a deck building game. There's an expansion for Into the Echo Side, Oracle of the Three Rings. There's Juggalos Against Sanity, which is a Juggalo version of Cards Against Humanity. And there's also the terrible expansion for Juggalos Against Sanity. So a lot of games, and most of them are geared towards the Juggalo world. Morton's List does have players outside of the Juggalo world, and it has a very dedicated following. And we have all these games. A big part of the reason we have all those games is because of Jumpsteady. I mean, he was a main creating force behind all of these, if not the main creating force. So the games, that's a huge part of his contribution to the Juggalo world. He was also involved in ICP's wrestling promotion, JCW, as Evil Dead. Evil Dead is actually a character that didn't originate in JCW. It was a character that was a part of ICP's stage show, kind of a zombie-like character played by Jumpsteady that would, die at random times and, just walk around stage, fall over things, spring back to life. And they transferred that over into JCW to where Evil Dead actually became a wrestler and became the first JCW champion. So Jumpsteady has, wrestling on his resume. He was in Big Money Hustlers as Hack Benjamin. He played the preacher in Big Money Hustlers. He also reprised his role as Hack Benjamin in Big Money Rustlers. And on top of all that, there's also the music. He is a dope rapper. We heard him rap as early as Carnival of Carnage, the first ICP Joker's card. He's on the last track, Taste. He's got a dope verse on there. He's also a part of the Golden Goldies. That was not meant to be released publicly. That was something that ICP did, I believe in 96 or 97 to celebrate the Riddle Box going gold, and it was just something they did for themselves for a party, and it was just for their own entertainment. But it was released to the fans. The Jumpsteady can be heard rapping on that. He as Golden Graham in the Golden Goldies. He appeared on the Hidden Family song on Forgotten Freshness Volume 3, and he's constantly being shouted out in ICP's music because he's a part of ICP's crew. This EP was not his first time rapping, but it was his first official project, and man, did he knock it out of the park with this one. So let's talk about this EP specifically. It was released on July 23rd, 2002. It was originally announced quite a bit earlier on in the liner notes of the original Tunnel of Love EP release, ICP's EP Tunnel of Love. And in those liner notes, it was actually announced that Jumpsteady would be dropping an album called The Chaos Theory. It even featured the same album art and everything like that. But of course, we didn't. And it was announced for a 1997 release, but we didn't get it for 5 years later, actually in 2002. But they did eventually deliver in a big way. And multiple producers worked on this EP. We'll discuss who produced which track as we go through the track breakdown, which we're about to do right now. So the first track is just called Intro. It is just a really short intro. There's actually no producer listed in the liner notes, so I don't actually know who produced this the intro track. But yeah, it's just about 20-something seconds long. It has some ominous music with the words Jumpsteady and the Chaos Theory being repeated. There is some back masking as well. I reversed the whole song. The only words that were spoken backwards seem to be also Jumpsteady and the Chaos Theory. So that just leads into the actual first song on the album, track 2, Oucha Mouth. And this song is produced by Fritz the Cat. And this gives us a taste of what a solo Jumpsteady track is like. And it turns out that is very, very dope, because this song is super fresh, man. Jumpsteady is telling us about himself, and he's rapping about everything from karma to the dark carnival. It's really just a track that sets up the EP and kind of introduces Jumpsteady on a solo level. I mean, he just really has a very poetic style and a cool way of phrasing things. Something about a personal memory of this song. I was young when I heard this, and I was actually starting to write raps myself at the time I heard this. And this might sound crazy to you guys, but the first line of his first verse, he says, "My name is Jumpsteady, and are you punks ready for the samurai machete to make human confetti?" When he said, "My name is Jumpsteady," and rhymed it with Punk's Ready, that like flipped the light switch in my mind that made me realize that you can rap multiple syllables. Like, I actually remember having like the eureka moment, and I listened to a good bit of rap up until that point, and I don't think it fully clicked with me that you could do that. And yeah, that's just like a big memory I have of this EP. It kind of like woke me up to the concept of multiple syllable rhyme schemes. Jamie Madrox is actually featured on the hook, and the end of the song actually contains a sample from the 1975 movie Death Race 2000 that features Sylvester Stallone. The little skit at the end with talking about Machine Gun Joe, that's actually from that movie. And then we go into track 3, In the Last Second. This song, man, it's so good. Produced by Mike P. As a lot of you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Mike P's production, and he definitely doesn't disappoint on this project. And this song is actually rapped from the perspective of someone who was shot and is about to die. And the production works so well because it's like a slower kind of thumping beat, and that fits because it kind of gives things a slow motion feel, which makes sense because the person who was shot seems to be having like a rush of thoughts, you know what I mean? And like he does seem to be thinking faster than the events going on externally, and the slow motion feel kind of hits that home. And in the lyrics, Jumpsteady questions things such as why he was shot and what his loved ones will do after his death. And the ending is actually quite interesting, and I don't think I thought too much about it until I was doing the notes for this episode, because it describes at the end he's feeling hell sucking him in, and he's feeling creatures pull him into like what seems to be like a hellish world. But then he sees the light coming back, so he thinks he has a chance, but then suddenly he dies. And I don't know if maybe that was intended to be open-ended as far as the ending, or maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm not sure, because the more I listened to it, the more I thought like you can interpret it as he, was just given false hope at the last second for whatever reason, and thought he was going to live and, not be sucked into this hellish world, but then just was randomly. Or maybe it was he, was getting sucked into this hellish world, but then the light he actually saw was maybe a good afterlife, heaven or something, and that's where he went when he ended up dying. I'm not sure. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the ending of this song. One way or the other, it's such a dope song, and it's just done so well. And at the end of this song, we actually hear the first skit that involves, I guess, a character that Jumpsteady is playing, dealing with his landlord. On this skit, the landlord is calling Jumpsteady and leaving a message on his voicemail and stuff like that. We'll see how that plays out on a skit later on in the EP. That leads into track 4, Mad Mad World. This is produced by Fritz the Cat, and this track is actually a remake of the 783's Mad Mad World, which was featured on Colors, a film that I think came out in 1988. The track itself talks about how crazy and difficult and oftentimes dangerous life is. It's really cool because Jumpsteady really sticks to the content and the structure of the original song. I mean, it's a full-blown remake. It really is, and almost like a rap cover. The beat is quite different, but I mean, the verse really sticks to that structure. But in the original song, I thought it was really cool how the original song is rapping about someone who is in the Vietnam War, and kind of from an outsider perspective, talking about how those experiences must feel. But Jumpsteady actually changes the last verse, talking about his experiences in the Gulf War, which I thought was just so interesting. It is such a heavy verse. I mean, it talks about, PTSD and the horrors of war and the pain of questioning your government's decision to deploy you in that war. Very heavy verse. One of the heaviest parts of the album, and just, this song is really, really powerful stuff. There's no hooks on the song. The first and third break actually have Violent J and Shaggy addressing the Juggalos, encouraging the Juggalos, helping them, deal with all the madness in the world. The second break actually contains news broadcast samples covering the Waco siege of 1993. That was an event that really polarized a lot of people and got people to look at the government in a different way, and caused a lot of people to question some of the government's use of authority. So really fits with the theme. The fourth break between verses actually contains what sounds like either news broadcast samples or a documentary sample covering the Bojinka plot. The Bojinka plot was actually a foiled terrorist plot in the 90s that would have wreaked a lot of havoc and took a lot of innocent lives had it succeeded. And some of the elements were actually used for 9/11, and there was connections when it comes to the people involved with the Bojinka plot and 9/11. So again, extremely heavy subject matter here, just kind of reminding us about the madness, the unpredictability, the danger that life on Earth has to offer. In some ways, it's encouraging, and in some ways, it's a reminder of how bleak life can be. Very dope song. The beat by Fritz is amazing. It's so dope. At the end of this is the second landlord skit. The landlord calls Jumpsteady again and, is hounding him for the rent, and Jumpsteady reveals that he has taken offense to this and he's actually at the landlord's own house and is about to burn it down. Sounds pretty ruthless, and it is, but it's, done in that classic Psychopathic Records way where they can make it humorous, because the way that Jumpsteady's character is making the landlord sound ridiculous for asking him for the rent is actually, it makes me laugh every time. So yeah, that's how the landlord saga ends. That leads into track 5, Chaos Theory, which is actually also produced by Fritz the Cat. And this song, of course, it's the title track of the EP, the Chaos Theory. As you can see here, the back of the liner notes booklet has a note from Jumpsteady, and this is talking all about the chaos theory. I'll just give a little quote to kind of sum up what Jumpsteady's chaos theory is. It says, "This is the chaos theory, that chaos can bring strength, adventure, and make your dreams possible where rational thought might fail. Living your life in this way, for better or worse, is sure to be more entertaining than not living your life at all." I mean, if you look up the chaos theory, on Google or something, there's actually a big scientific chaos theory. I could not understand the definition. Not sure if it influenced Jumpsteady's chaos theory as well. But at least we have, in more plain terms, what Jumpsteady's chaos theory is all about. And this song is dope, man. It does hit home some of the themes written about in the booklet. And it also has more abstract lyrics referencing everything from Dungeons and Dragons, again, going back to Jumpsteady's gaming, influence. It talks about warfare, samurais, ninjas. Jamie Madrox is found on the hook again. In one of the lyrics in the hook, and something that Jumpsteady has in one of his verses, it says, "It's about time for you and your empire to die." And I thought that was interesting because on the Hatchet Chat that Lars and I did about the original Most Tasters release by Twisted, MC Lars talks a lot about how the cultural themes and a lot of bands kind of dealt around the idea of the crumbling of an empire. And this is in the early 2000s, so this is word for word references what MC Lars was talking about. So when I was listening to it, this song again, getting ready for the notes, I just was really thinking about that, and I thought that was interesting. At the end of this song, we hear a sample from an old school ninja movie. I'm not sure which one it is. It's possible that it's Ninja in Action, because we're going to get into the next song. But I've seen Ninja in Action, but I couldn't track down, getting ready for this episode, whether this quote was directly from that movie or not, and I couldn't remember. But it's from some over-the-top 80s ninja movie, which ICP and Jumpsteady and their whole crew seem to love. They talk about them pretty regularly and have been influenced by them. So yeah, a sample from an old ninja movie leads us in to track 6, Ninjas in Action, which is a dope posse cut with the whole Psychopathic Records family on here. And again, that the title is definitely a reference to the old Ninja movie, Ninja in Action. In the booklet, this song is credited as being produced by John and Ponch, but I think that's probably a joke because the song itself is heavily based around a sample from the theme song from the show Chips. And John and Ponch are characters in Chips, so I don't think that's the name of the actual producers of this track, and I don't know who actually produced it. But either way, this song is dope. It's an awesome use of the Chips title theme, and yeah, you just get all the psychopathic just kicking some dope raps together. It features ICP, Twisted, ABK, Blaze. It got Legs Diamond rapping on here. It got Sin from Zug Island. Just an awesome, fun song. Love this song. It's great. Track 7, Joke Your Mind, is an ICP cover, of course. Joke Your Mind was the final track on ICP's EP, Beverly Kills 50187. This cover is produced by Mike P. And man, Joke Your Mind, the original is one of my favorite ICP songs, and this song is an incredible cover of Joke Your Mind. I actually highly recommend checking out MC Lars's episode, a Hatchet Chat episode over on his channel on Beverly Kills, because he goes into Joke Your Mind and talks a lot about it, because it is just, it's a heavy song. It's a to me it's a spiritual song. Joke Your Mind basically means to to dream and fantasize about a better existence than the one you're experiencing, and does so in like kind of a whimsical and mystical way. And this version is super cool. I mean, we got Jumpsteady. I mean, he has new lyrics for this version. I mean, he basically has like brand new verses on this cover, but there's also a lot of the lyrics maintained from the original version, and a lot of the original lyrics we have Violent J singing, which I think is really cool because we get to hear him revisit a song he did 10 years earlier. And I think it's also pretty cool, like they switched it up, because the original had a skit in which it was actually a homeless person who was, kind of escaping his reality through fantasy. But in this one, they actually changed the context up a little bit, and the skit surrounding it involves an older man in jail explaining to a younger guy who just got put in jail about how he escapes prison every night through his dreams. So I just thought that was cool how they switched it up a little bit in regards to the context of those fantasy themes. Just love this song, and a great way to close out the EP, even though there's a hidden track we're going to talk about. But before we talk about that, we also got to mention that there's a Twilight Zone sample in this song. It samples a closing narration of an episode, Perchance to Dream. Really fits the theme of the song. That's the last official track that's listed on the track listing. But as I mentioned, there is a hidden track known as Sammy's Song, which is produced by Fritz the Cat. And it actually has Jumpsteady's daughter, who we heard rapping a year or so earlier on the family song we talked about earlier on Forgotten Freshness Volume 3. And it's just a cool little tribute to his daughter, where him and his daughter are rapping. I think that's a dope thing he did, because they're going to have that forever. I mean, now she's grown and she can listen to this to those verses that she has, pressed up on CD. So that was a cool little tribute to his daughter. And that's the end of this incredibly dope EP, man. I love it. It's so good. It's a Juggalo classic. It wasn't the last project that we got from Jumpsteady. We ended up getting a full-length album a couple of years later in 2005 called Master the Flying Guillotine, which is also a great release. And then we got a spoken word album by him in 2013 called The Road and Other True Stories. And he was also heavily featured on the Legs Diamond album, or Legs Diamond and the Purple Gang, I should say, Nine Pistolas. And that's a great album as well. But musically, we haven't really gotten much from Jumpsteady lately. I mean, I don't think being a rapper was ever his main, dream or aspiration in life. Not that he's not great at it, because he is, but I think it's something that he probably does when the time is right. But whether it's through music or not, Jumpsteady has always been a big part of the Juggalo world. and I'm sure he'll always continue to be a big part of the Juggalo world, whether it's through the gatherings, through the games, even through the streams that ICP were doing on Patreon, that they've recently moved to Twitch. I mean, he's on almost all of those, if not all of those. So we get to enjoy plenty of Jumpsteady flavor there. If you haven't listened to this EP or haven't listened to it in a while, definitely check it out, because it's just great, from the production to the rapping. I love it so much. And that's it for this episode of Hatchet Chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the new year. Whoop whoop.